So we have another case study to talk about. So hopefully we will have time for a short breakout room for this one, but I'll read this through. So this young person was year 10 at secondary school. They had been out of school for a long time, for a year, but had gradually established a routine of going into a separate building for an hour with a trusted adult to do some maths. Mondays were sometimes unpredictable, but they were going into school most days and managing to spend about 30 minutes in this building. They were open to getting education again, but they were quite anxious, and they were engaging in some strategies that supported them managing their own worries and their own anxieties. So this is a young person in the collaboration stage. School wanted this young person to spend longer time in school, doing a wider range of learning. The young person was engaging in homework for a few different subjects, but when they were actually in the building, only felt able to access maths. The school also felt that they needed to introduce a second safe and trusted adult to this young person to be able to maintain the provision. So gradually this young person built up to doing a couple of hours in school most days, and were engaging in both English and maths with two different adults that supported them. What helped to get there was only making one change at a time. The school introduced the new adult first, before extending the young person's time in school, gave the young person some options of staying for different lengths of time, so that the young person felt that they had some control over how they were progressing their time in school. And then the last thing that was changed was the addition of a different subject. So that change of kind of staying in school longer and adding a subject was really broken down into those small chunks. And there was no demand on this young person to wear full uniform when they were in school. The school were able to reach a compromise. So shall we have time in breakout room? I'm wondering whether
I think if we skip the breakout room.
Okay, no worries.
Just mindful of, we want to kind of do signposting and questions by 20 past. Can we go back to the questions though, just for a moment?
Yep.
Yeah, I just wondered if in the chat, just so we're kind of engaging with the case as it was presented, and I'll try and snip it into the chat as well. But can we just think about the last question there? The really key thing at that stage is not to kind of get carried away with all the success and suddenly revert back to, you know, inclusion with reasonable adjustments or something like that. That's a later stage, and to focus on one change at a time, one change at a time. But can we just have a little bit in the chat? So a sentence or a few words. What's an example of changing just one thing? So I'll start with an example. You might change the adult. You might slide in a new adult to the same activity at the same time in the same place. But you're introducing a new adult, which makes the ongoing kind of consistency of key adult relationships a bit better over time. Some other examples where at this stage you might just change one thing at a time and put it in the chat, or if you're feeling very sherry, say out loud. Hey, Diana.
Hey, I don't know about feeling sherry, but if this child had good connections with friends at school, maybe do the thing of the child coming in to spend some time at break time with their friends, maybe just tiny bit, because it's not all about education. Them going to school is about the interaction they have socially as well.
Yeah, it's a great example of widening participation. There's a few different changes there, so you might think about how you kind of grade it. So that is kind of like a change to routine with a change of people at a different time. But yeah, maybe a young person's already in a routine of coming to school for a set amount of time, and the change is bringing in a friend, or changing the setting from in an inclusion space to in a more communal space where friends are passing by. Or maybe the change isn't coming to school, but it's having the friend come to young person with their consent out of school hours or something like that. Yeah, do you see that kind of one change thing? Lots of things are
Definitely.
involved in meeting friends at school, and how can we do one thing at a time until we're at that result? Thank you, Diana. And yes, you've got the kind of local meetings. Yeah, so we'll talk about changes on the way to school attendance, but also just changes to your eating. Changing your breakfast cereal might be a really significant change for a young person at this stage. And yeah, adding in an additional friend, what can be quite nice, and it comes back to an earlier point around young person participation and a young person being part of the partnership, is getting young person to make some of these choices as well if they're able to contribute. So we want to be here, we're going to do small changes to get there. What thing would you like to see change next? Would you like to see an additional friend, or would you like to actually get back into this space where you previously have been?
I think that's one of our main indicators that a young person's getting there and getting into this stage, isn't it, Dave? That they're actually able to put forward their own suggestions for how things might change.
Yeah, I always think I think every stage has its kind of hopeful moment. So from safety to participation, it's really hopeful when a young person is participating in things again. But at the kind of motivation collaboration stage, what is really hopeful is when a young person can verbalize and articulate, I want my life to be different. When they can express
this is
a goal.
What I want to do next.
I want to be learning, or I want to be be with my friends again. And that's such a great place to be, because you can then work with the kid on their own goals. And you can ask things like, what should we change first? Or what do you need to be able to do this? It's a great place to be.
Yeah, I think that's a really helpful conversation to have with young people when they're ready as well. Sometimes we have cases where young people want to make quite a big change that involves several different steps, and it can be helpful to have a really good shared narrative around how we break that down and help that to be more manageable and more sustainable for them as well.
I'm just going to talk to Andriana's comments. That kind of the length of this framework. It's a long process if you're going from safety all the way through to inclusion.
Yeah.
Our view or our lived experience, Joe, you might speak to this a bit better, is it's really the homeschool relationship that is central. That relationship is the core of the partnership that kind of progresses and is consistent throughout. And the idea is that you'll bring in relevant professionals at different stages based on what the need is. So maybe a more home-orientated professional to help with the earlier stages, and then there might be some more school-based professional as you're getting into collaboration and inclusion, those more school-based stages of this framework. So there's a core, home and school, and then there's transient professionals who come and do the bit that is needed to progress things.
And I think that what we often see is that for young people that are in that safety participation stage, goals have to be really small, steps are really small, reviews are very regular, because the pace of change, if you're thinking big picture, can feel quite small and quite slow. Whereas for young people who are in some of the higher up stages, progress can come faster. The goals can be slightly bigger because there's more resilience. There's more the young person's driving their change, so you're able to sometimes take those slightly bigger steps, and so change can come faster, and reviews can sometimes be slightly less frequent, because you're not needing to monitor every single little step quite so much. So I think the pace of change can really differ across that spectrum as well.
And again, going back to my kind of soapbox moment earlier around the problem and how I think this stages framework might be helpful, managing expectations around what is significant progress. So at the safety stage, significant progress might look like a young person is speaking with their parents and carers again, or is coming downstairs to eat some food of their choice. That's significant progress. And if we can name that as such, that gives so much breathing space to the parents and carers to be the parent and carer they need to be for their kid. If that makes sense. That permission and encouragement from schools to parents will help them be what they need to be, as opposed to an unrealistic goal, a mismatched goal, the wrong thing for where the young person is at, which just adds pressure and stress onto the family system, which means that they cannot be the parent or carer they might need to be for their young person. So that's the kind of every interaction is an intervention. Shared goal helps them interact in a way that's going to be more helpful.
And it's where having that shared goal as well, and getting an idea of the rate of progress that feels good and feels like it's working for that young person. You have that learning as you're going through the process as well. You start to get more of a feel for how much progress that young person is going to make in their particular area. And I mean, we've had, young people in that safety stage who struggle with personal hygiene, for example, and the goal might be to engage in personal hygiene every day, but that might start off with a wet wipe and a face wash and progress to a shower, because of different sensory sensitivities and things. So I think having those written plans really does help monitor that and help everybody feel confident that progress is happening, even though it might feel very, very slow and that it isn't.
Shall we, context of time, put some of this into practice? Oh, well, do that as well.
Yeah, so, well, I think this just gives, I mean, these slides are going to go out, so this just gives a few different thoughts around what that one change at a time can look like, and hopefully just a bit helpful really to reflect that when we are asking for a change or discussing a change, to actually think that sometimes what we feel is one change is actually about four, and so just to really break that down and consider that a bit. So shall I just speak to this briefly, just to say that for this young person, in terms of curiosity, this young person was at the stage of being able to collaborate and to be able to voice and to say what it is that they felt that they were able to change, and what they felt that they needed to be able to make those changes. Compassion was really demonstrated through the way that the school were working with this young person, and the parents and carers, which really enabled some fantastic partnership working together that facilitated the change in this young person's situation.